I guess I should start saying things and looking into the camera. Good morning. It is another edition of the Astro Weather. And it is start saying things. Oh, I'm hearing myself now. And looking into the camera. Let's eliminate that. Yeah. Good morning. It's another edition of the Astro Weather. It's 5/24/23. And here are today's stars. That's my Astro Weatherman newsman persona. So let's get it up here. How is everybody today? Hey, listen, we got a great group. We got a really great group. We got people from all the way as far away as from Cambodia and Kyoto. We are global. This is the Aquarian age, the true Aquarian age. Not their fake ass bullshit World Economic Forum version. We all know that that's the pale imitation of the rightful Aquarian age, which, by the way, is what? Heaven on earth. That's what it is, boys and girls. When the water bearer bears its vessel and the contents, water is the spirit. It's the spirit. So the Aquarian age really is heaven on earth. And it may feel like hell now, but just hang in there long enough. Hang in there long enough. There's going to be some interesting plot twists along the way. I guarantee it. All right, let's get into the weather. Okay, here we go. The sun, freshly minted, just like a spring day. In the sign of Gemini, right there. Still the Sun-Pluto trine. Yeah, people were talking about the last couple of days. Wow, the intensity of the last couple of days. But it's one of those. The animals know that the animals in the forest know that something is up, and the animals are restless for sure. I'm going to go on record here. I want to say something. Keep your eyes on Los Angeles. Right around the night that the Dodgers have the celebration of Pride Week at their stadium. Keep your eye on Los Angeles during that time. Just saying. Okay, let's get into the weather. T-square action. Still there. We still have Mars in Leo opposing Pluto. You know, Mars and Leo is dramatic. Leo's dramatic. We talked a little bit about the ego yesterday, but Leo's dramatic. And we're all actors in our own script, right? We're all actors in our own script. And Mars Leo here is really asking you, are you a supporting actor or you're a lead actor? And when you look at Mars in this configuration, it's kind of the lead dog, right? As far as a chart goes, we almost have a locomotive chart in terms of the configuration. If I'd done this on Sunday night, the moon probably would have been right about there, right? And we would have had a clear locomotive chart. And locomotive charts are interesting. So with the idea with the locomotive chart, let's just fill in the blank space. This is like the missing ammonium nitrate car right here. So you have Mars as the lead dog driving the engine, and it resolves itself in Pluto. That, boys and girls, is a locomotive chart. And if you happen to have one, every single planet along the way is impacted by the other, right? So there's a kind of a chain reaction with the locomotive chart. They're pretty rare as far as chart types go. I have to say the most common chart type is the bucket chart. I'd say the bucket chart is the most common. The splash chart is the second most common. What would be third? It's kind of a toss-up, but I would go with seesaw as the third most common. Then I would say basket, which is just half the chart. Then I would say cluster, and then not cluster. What do you call it? Yeah, cluster chart. Where one part, there's just a cluster of planets, one part of the chart, and then the least common would be the splay chart. Anyway, there's a little chart statistics for you. So Mars is the lead dog in the astrological parade. So again, egos are way out in front, right? Ego, people fighting for significance in a lot of ways. I'm just, the other thing I'm noticing too, I'm going to throw this in with Mars right now as well. I think the online space is, so the social online space, especially, it's not just on Twitter, but it's on comments and YouTube pages. It's a shitty place to be during this time. It could get better, but right now it's shitty because people are trying people feel so entirely powerless right now in our current system, the current milieu. So when you get a hardcore fixed Mars like Leo, there's a lot of flexing going on. And there's a lot of fronting, and there's a lot of spite. There's a lot of spite. And I'm seeing this on everything from Twitter. I don't go to Facebook very much, but my experience with Facebook is that people cluster in Facebook. And so they generally tend to have groups. And this is all part of the grooming. I wouldn't call it the grooming, the trimming. We'll call it the trimming aspect of Facebook, because over time, especially during COVID and beyond, it just separated everybody's worlds out. So a lot of times now Facebook seems kind of like I wouldn't say it's an echo chamber, but it's a lot more, I think, cohesive in some ways than Twitter, which is like an alley. And so I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm even seeing the comments on the YouTube pages, not necessarily from my show, but other shows. And people feel just incredibly disempowered. And this whole idea that they're anonymous and they can just dump on people because their worldview is not being respected, or, and I find this a lot with younger people. Not to say that old people aren't indulgent in some of those behaviors. Trust me, they can be. But I get with younger people that there's no sense of anything beyond the moment, right? And when we get Mars and Leo, where's the moment? Mars and Mercury bring us into the moments, right? Mercury theoretically is our cognition of where we are in time and space. Mars is the thing that allows us to act in time and space. So between Mars and Mercury, these two planets give us the ability to have some kind of cognition of the moment. And here with Mars and Leo, we are prisoners of the moment. When Mars is in any fire sign, it's all about now. Now, I want it now. I want my toy now. I want my lolly now, or whatever, right? And we get into, in some ways, very childish behaviors, churlish and childish behaviors with Mars and Leo. And I would say that's a thing to watch out for, inside of yourself, with others, right? So with a chart like this, like, who's the adult? Who's going to be the adult today? Gemini is, I love Gemini. Gemini is a sign that's really associated with youth. It's the third sign. It is connected to springtime. It represents early childhood education. It's always curious. So when the sun is in Gemini, you're not always going to get seasoned perspectives. You'll get fresh perspectives, but you won't get seasoned perspectives when the sun is, and that has nothing to do with Gemini people, by the way. Let's be clear about that. So it's fresh ways of looking at things, right? So now all of a sudden we have an infusion of the sun with Mars. It's right there, right? And this is where we get into this idea of, what role am I playing in my life? Am I a supporting actor / I remember when they used to be called actresses too, but that's such a quaint a quaint little colloquialism of the 20th century. Am I a supporting actor or am I a lead actor? And I think it's really important. And by the way, there's no harm in being a supporting actor. Sometimes supporting actors, if they're really good, they can, not that they want to, but they can steal a movie. They can totally steal a movie. Like for instance, I don't think Jack Nicholson I think he was the best supporting actor in terms of endearment. Didn't he win an Oscar for that? He kind of stole that movie, right? He kind of stole that movie. And I know Shirley MacLaine was in it. It was a big deal, but he kind of stole that movie. So sometimes by being a really good supporting actor, not that you want to upstage people, but supporting actors can be really underrated. So it's okay to be a supporting actor, but have a conscious awareness of that. Like, I'm about to play the supporting actor role in my life very quickly here, okay? So I'm about to hug the supporting actor role. So if you are a supporting actor and you are consciously aware of it, then don't stress about it, right? You don't have to be, the lead actor. But, and when I say supporting actor, I mean that this is a role you play. You're a support to people. And you can't really, like, there's support that you have to do and there's support that you choose to do. And if there's support that you have to do, you can't get out of it, right? So that's the role you're playing. If you are a supporting actor that chooses to be supportive, what's this? What do we have here? Hold on. Somebody wants to be downright honest with me. They got my attention. Sorry. The squirrel. Here we go. Where is this? Maybe I shouldn't find it. No, hold on. I gotta shut all this shit down. What is this? Messages? No. Anyway, if you have to play the role of supporting actor, that's fine. Just go ahead and do it. Right? Just do it. If you are doing it by volition, and you have to ask yourself, is this really the role I need to play? Is this really the role I need to play? And maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. And if it isn't, then take yourself out of the role because it's disempowering. It is very disempowering. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'm getting the fair warning. Okay. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second here. Hold on. All right. Done. Okay. So here we go. Let's get back to it. If you are a supporting actor in your life and you don't want to be, not by choice, but you don't want to be, rethink it. All right. The moon is still in Cancer, but it's right there at the edge. Let me get in here a little bit. And right there, it's at 29 degrees. So it's going to be joining up with Mars today. And what that means is more volatility with Moon Mars conjunction, right? Much more volatility. Much more of a sense of, again, might is right. That's Mars, right? It doesn't matter what the sign is. Although in Cancer, Might is right, but then maybe it's not. Maybe I have to make space for the other person, right? Might is right, but maybe it's not. So it's just another wrinkle. It's another wrinkle in today's chart, today's flow, today's weather. What else do we have here? We have Mercury and Taurus moving along, and it's getting out of this orb with Pluto. Today's this final kind of Mercury square with Pluto. Will communication get easier? Maybe. It's still going to be, let's see, what is it doing? I think the best part of Mercury here is it's going to catch up with Venus. Mercury's a little faster than Venus. So being able to communicate, being able to have kind of a reciprocal level of being able to share with another person is good. Right? And that's going to open up a little bit. But we're still in this really intense tight T-square, and it is still fraught with dynamic tension. And I do think there are some outs. There's some empathy. Like if you get stuck in this T-square, if you are in an intractable kind of moment or an intractable situation, there is a way out here, and it's through Neptune, right? And I do think there's the potential of being the bigger person. There is the potential of kind of elevating above the situation. Try not to get into this conflict unless you absolutely, utterly have to. If you absolutely, utterly have to, then I would advise you to roll up your sleeves and be in it to win it, okay? Like you can't, yeah, you can't pacify it, right? You can't pacify it once you're in. But you can avoid it altogether. You can totally avoid it altogether if you want. And how do you avoid it altogether? You let it go. Don't enter into the fray. Take the higher road. It's like it even looks like the higher road, doesn't it? You know, Venus, Moon, Mars, all moving up to Neptune. That's the higher road, the higher path. Okay, let's get into our star of the day. Kind of an interesting star. I really wanted to do, what's his name? George Washington Carver, right? Isn't that the guy's name? The peanut guy? Yeah. So today's star of the day is Bob Dylan. There it is. Bob Dylan. Mr. Bob Dylan. I mean, really, this guy is an icon, a star. I'm not a huge fan, by the way. Never really liked Dylan. Although I do give him some credit for having some balls to go electric at the Newport Folk Festival in Newport, Connecticut, Newport, Rhode Island, whatever. You know, when I look at Dylan's chart, and I have a little interesting twist with Dylan. It is a chart that is, I wouldn't necessarily call it a great chart, right? Like he's got Sun in Gemini in the 6th house. He works a lot. Bob Dylan works a lot. And he's got Mercury in Gemini. So I think he's intelligent, but then he's got this square with Neptune. We're going to get into that square with Neptune. And I have kind of an interesting take and exercise that we're going to explore here in a second. He's got Pluto up here in the 8th house, right? And I don't know if you've ever seen the Ed Bradley with Pluto, the Ed Bradley interview on 60 Minutes, where he basically talks about selling his soul to the devil. Look, and I'm not saying that everybody has Pluto. That's Pluto in the 8th house, sells their soul to the devil. I'm not saying that, but it is kind of an interesting placement for Pluto, given his conversation with Ed Bradley. So he has Mars in Pisces, and we know Mars in Pisces tends to be a bit creative, but it's squaring all of his Gemini planets, essentially. He's got a shit ton of planets in Taurus. Stellium, he's got Jupiter, Uranus, Moon, Saturn. all fifth house. So there is creative potential here, right, in the fifth house. And it has, all these planets are trining up to Neptune up here in the ninth house, right? So there is kind of this creative potential for aspiration. The other thing that's interesting about Neptune in the ninth house is Dylan's role with religion. And there was a period where he did a Christian album. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called Saved. And that's a total Neptune ninth house moment. Right. So he's kind of complex in some ways, because there is this, I don't want to call it a mystique, but for lack of a better term, we'll call it a mystique. And the mystique is in the trine, all the trines from one group to the next up here, with Neptune being the highest planet in this chart, resolving itself theoretically creatively, right? But there's also challenges in this chart. And the challenge is, it like he has a boom or bust chart. And the boom is when he's able to let go and have all of his, essentially the bulk of his planets flow into the ninth house. And Dylan becomes kind of a voice for people during his generation. But he always said that he didn't want to be political. He never wanted to be a teacher or anything like that. He shunned a lot of those things. And to me, that's very Neptunian. But then there are periods where I think he gets into serious drought. Serious drought. Now, and you can see it with his albums and his output. Now, there is a theory that Bob Dylan did not write his songs. Okay? He didn't write his songs. Like there are people, and I've heard this from more than one. I started to hear this about Dylan in the 80s. And I actually worked with a guy, he was the publisher of the magazine that I was working at. And his girlfriend, who was much younger, said she knew somebody who wrote Dylan's songs. So that's always been in kind of the background with Dylan's work, like who could have written his songs. If you're not familiar with Miles Mathis, he's a guy that goes into really kind of very detailed and very kind of anal research. And I like his work, but I don't always agree with his work. His work on Dylan, though, is really good. And what he does is this forensics with who could be the person that wrote Dylan's tunes during his time. And he came up with that there were only two. If Dylan, because there really is a drop off in his catalog when it comes to the writing. The first Dylan records they're lionized for their almost biblical retelling of tales in a modern idiom. And so Miles Mathis comes up with only two people that could do that, right? In his mind, who have the style that can put their voice into Dylan's lyrics. One is Paul Simon, and the other is Leonard Cohen. And he thinks that Leonard Cohen is the writer of a lot of Dylan tunes. So I decided to, as a little exercise here, look at Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen and put their charts together. Okay. And some very interesting things happen when we put them together in synastry. All right. So let me start with Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen. Where is it? Right here. You got too many Bob Dylan charts. Okay. So this is Bob Dylan with Leonard Cohen overlaid on his chart. What do we see here? Leonard Cohen's sun is conjunct Bob Dylan's Neptune. Exactly. So when we talked about the flow from Dylan's chart going from here to here with Neptune, Who's there? Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen has Sun conjunct the ascendant in his own chart. And what do we see over here? Leonard Cohen's Mercury, the planet associated with what? Words, speaking, conjunct Bob Dylan's midheaven. So, and here we have Mars in Leo, 8th house, kind of the power behind the scenes. I think this is really interesting. And not only that, but they have a Mars moon match right here in the sign of Pisces. If you ask me from an astrological perspective, even with Jupiter in Dylan's 10th house, I would say that this is an absolute fit. This is two pieces of a puzzle that come together. And I know Miles Mathis probably isn't into astrology, but astrologically, I think this is bang on. Now, we could also look at Leonard Cohen with Dylan, because the relationship is theoretically reciprocal, right? So here's Cohen's chart. You can see the sun on the ascendant. And what's happening on his midheaven, Bob Dylan's Jupiter and Mercury are right on his midheaven. He's getting paid to write, right? I think this is very interesting. Super, super, super interesting. And even over here, this is Dylan on the inside. I'm sorry, on the outside. And so Leonard Cohen has Venus, Neptune conjunct. Very, very poetic. And then Dylan's moon and true note are tapping into that from the 12th house. And then, of course, we have this Neptune, moon, sun conjunction. So Bob Dylan's Neptune occults or clouds Dylan's sun, right? Very interesting. He's hidden. He is hidden by Bob Dylan. I think it's a match. I think it's a match. All right. That's our astro weather for today. So I hope you got something out of it. Please join me over on 15 Minutes of Flame if you feel so obliged. And here we go, 15 Minutes of Flame right there. And it's at 9:11 a.m., 10:41 a.m. Central Standard Time. And please join us. We got a great crew over there. Chattaria, a lot of people that you see here are over there. And I talk about stuff that isn't always astrologically based, although I do talk about some astrology when it's appropriate, bring it in. And then, of course, we have a mention of our sponsor, True Hemp Science, and my good friend Chris over in Austin. And he actually brings some of the best CBD straight to your door. You don't have to be in Austin to get it. And if you go here and spend $100 or more, you can get some free goodies, some free product. All you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and guess what happens? The free goodies come with your order. $150 or more, and you get free shipping. Always a 30-day money-back guarantee. Support Main Street. Support somebody who has bootstrapped a business and is doing everything in his power to make it better and improve the quality of everything he does for the rest of us. TrueCBD.com, TrueHempScience.com. All right, that's it. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. Now I have to sit here for a while because it ends too quickly.